Hey everyone, it's Jay. I found a lot of tutorial out there on YouTube show you how to build stunning UIs with AI coding assistant. And that's great and very impressive, but not enough talk about what happens at backend, the database part, and how do you actually store data, structure data, how to reflect the business logic in your backend, and how do you make it scalable when like user payments, products, marketing all come into play. So this video is for builders like us who want to translate business logic into a clean, usable backend, even if we don't write perfect query or coding language like SQL or ORM to build a database. Then I will walk you through how to use cursor and Supabase MCP and prompting in a structured way to build a working database. We will talk about one popular example, post blog. That definitely you can apply to a lot of cases because I'll show you a general workflow, show you how business contexts get broken down, structured, and stored. This isn't about like technical jargon, it's about learning to think clearly, structure better, and build things that can scale. Think of blog. What does it look like at top of your mind? Like you have intro, heading, content, ending, and image, right? It's pretty solid structure. But what if you put this concept into a business world? It's not blog anymore, and we call it CMS, content management system, where you need to maybe have these attributes like the title, headings, contents, HTML format to post, and multi-language for different region. You have different authors, and also you will need a tag to filter to categorize those blocks, right? Then we will have status to manage the draft, publish, or even archived. And how about deleted? And then you probably have some timestamp or attribute to let the system help you track and when it's created, when it's updated, and when it's deleted, and then we put all the good stuff together. The next question you're asking like, where do I actually store my content? And how do I know who write what? If I delete the post, what happened to the comment? This is the moment you realize, okay, I need a database here. Let's step back. What even is a database? Most people say, oh, it's like a spreadsheet you can get data from or just a place to store data. That's just too vague concept because Excel and Word still can save those data. Actually, we are storing data into the rows or record into table, with each column that define the type of data. And more importantly, this table can relate to each other, and each table has its own attribute and properties. That's what makes it relational and structured. For example, in our blog case or content management case, we probably have something like this. We have user table, row table, tag, content, comment, and category, or something more complex like what I showed in my Supabase. We have the many-to-many table, and we have some external link or some feature campaign you want to promote with your blog, or we have media asset to manage like video, images. Those are all related to each other. I will give you more detail later. And think of when you build such a system, you ask like, show me all posts tagged with AI or show me all comment by JSON. Your database can do that because that's data connected between each tables or lots of tables. That's part of our relationship. You are not just saving info, you are modeling the logic of your business and turn it into a structured way, store them into a database. These are not just the product decision, they are your database decisions. Your schema needs to reflect the business logic. If it doesn't, your data turns into mess, and your decisions and your analytics later. Now you probably need a real hosted database. So Supabase is my primary choice for most AI projects with beautiful UI, built-in auth, and all the dev tools you will need. It also has official MCP support for us to build use prompt, manage it on Cursor. Now you know why it's important and how it relates to your business, but does a prompt with large language model can help you out? Cloud Code, Gemini, ChatGPT, all three are powerful. They can build the right system, the good system, but they cannot build the right system for your own case unless you define the business logic clearly. And that's why concept like prompt engineering, even context engineering is getting trending. The model needs your thinking, needs your definition, needs your understanding of how data flow through your system. Once that clarity is there, large language models become incredibly effective partners in building and reasoning. And here is a simple example. You ask ChatGPT to help you build a blog system, and you give prompt like, help me create a blog backend database that store my article, or you want to be more specific because you have UI front end already. Help me create a blog system to reflect UI front end logic and blog component. That sounds right and probably will work at a few articles, but think about when you want to expand to control all entity, to control how you interact with blog, how blog can be tracked, and how it can be used for analytics purpose, is then getting complex. For example, when you say blog, do you mean like to store a single article? What does article has? Or you set a blog section, or you want to make blog website. So when you use block system in the prompt, it's very vague. If you generate maybe 10 times, you will probably have like 10 different database schema. It's not that helpful when you want to really settle down, have a sustainable and scalable system. If you are not precise, it might create like duplicated tables like blog, article, post, content, user, author, writer. And the thing of like when you try to delete JSON from the author, your blog probably just disappear. Or when you try to delete JSON from writer, but JSON is still the author. Here's the complexity of the database. Another real example, if you're building product with the user concept, I have met this before a lot of times. A business product has a kind of different logic to segment their user, right? But what kind of user you mean? In the prompting, are you seeing your visitors, your customers, like existing new users, or for users they have like paid, free trial, return, and enterprise users? What does it mean by a user? So again, if you still use that vague prompt in the cursor, you will just get probably 10 different readouts, 10 different schema that just ended up with a very messy database. Also messy up with your business logic because you did not clarify at the first step. Because user and the segment of user are related to one component is called payment. Since you have messed up with user, that also affect your payments, also affect your business model at the end. Now your whole backend is hard to maintain. The fix, you need to define your terms, aligning on naming, being intentional about structure. And that's the power of context prompt engineering and a good database design at the first step. I will show you how I step by step use a prompt in cursor and chat with ChatGPT to clarify an example about blog. But you will see how a system is built up. Great, let's step into the case. So I will share this whole prompt to the community that help you break down your business logic and design the whole structure of any case, because this is a meta prompt that help guide you through step by step how you should clarify, analyze, and expand the context with a lot of new variables or entities we can call you never thought of before. That will give you a business blueprint of how your database should be structured. This is always step one. As we mentioned a lot of times, database is to reflect your business logic. So let's dive into this case. For example, our case is blog section for product website, right? Very simple. You can change it to your case. Then the first is go, or you can think if this top level is not match what you want, you can always change. Then the step one is clarify the context. It's very important you understand there are a lot of like dynamic variable thing you need to consider at this step. This will give you maybe more like 10 more questions to help you understand about, for example, if your blog have multiple authors, if your blog go to different stages, because when you manage the blog, you need to think of how you view the blog system as admin instead of just a reader, right? And how the blog posts that relate to your maybe future things, for example, your product promotion, any like use case or campaigns. So they will help you build other entities that are related to blogs. So just basically confirm like yes or no, or you can add something you want. Feel free to add more questions or add more thoughts at each step. So right here, I just identify all 9 questions and then it helped me confirm, and also listed some like options I may consider. This is about visibility options. So because in the blog we have like public, internal, archived, right? Maybe in your case it's not visibility options, other important options you might want to look at. And second is more endless context. At this step we have entities, actions, and outcomes. If you're doing something on UI, for example on the front end, you have like what we call CRUD. You create, you update, you read, or you delete. Those actions, for example in our blog case, is write blog post, tag post, or change visibility. Those actions will lead to new outcome. So those actions with new outcomes we have to consider in the database building because it reflects all the things on the UI. After go through these actions, and you feel free to change because your UI definitely from other UI, or your user journey or onboarding flows that totally different from others. This workflow may lead to new entities, but I will just keep here to continue. You feel free to add. Then you do then this step to more enrich. For example, there are some possible additional that we may not consider. Blog probably have comment, right? And when we have blog, we probably will have thumbnails, images need to manage. Those things also need to be considered. Then if you just confirm or not, for example, in this case, no, yes, or you can add something new. And then after we confirm all this, it helps us map the logic. Then we have some entity list, the attributes, the variable status, and some relationship here. Then we just set blueprint confirm is finished. I will just at the final step, I let it help me to generate and summarize for this case. Then I will have all the things that I can directly copy to the cursor for the next step. So we come to the AI coding assistant, whatever you have. Now my case is cursor. So first things as always, do the setting because we will use Supabase MCP. Then you should do MCP tools. Then you set the Supabase and you enable some tools here. It will automatically enable all tools. So if you have this green dot, means your Supabase MCP is successfully set up. And I highly recommend you go to Supabase official YouTube website to check it out. And the next thing you need to set up is the env local file. So for example, in our case, we will set the Supabase part, the project URL, the ION keys like basic API key. From my experience, I found out if sometimes it requires the service role key to run for database access, it's because CRUD when you create, update, read, or delete on the testing stage. For example, we delete the record on the database part. So we need to give this service role key. And then after set MCP and env local files, let's focus on our prompt part and how we use the prompt to generate these three files. It's like the PRD for database for Supabase MCP to understand how it can create SQL queries or ORM language to help us build the database, because we need to give it very clear structure on how to build it. For example, now we are focusing on the backend build using Supabase MCP, we highlight here. Then we just copy paste the blueprint, the summary from the large language model. Oh, by the way, you also always can do this blueprint step on the cursor if you want to give more context. But as is for demo cases, then you after copy paste this context, give another prompt which is called business logic decomposer, and it will generate the three files. I will explain one by one. Then there's a whole structure prompt that leads you and create those things. It's very important to transfer your business language, business blueprint context into a language that easily be understood by the large language model to use Supabase MCP to create database directly instead of you using some like business terms. Then we have this file. For example, now it's just create for us. The first file is just help us to use some human readable language, so we can dive into here to help us understand the goal scope. It's like the PRD part.
And the logic breakdown is more technical. For example, we have entities, attributes versus properties. Then we dive the case by case. You feel free to change manually here if you want to dive more case or have more dynamic variables. We have some relationship because, as we said, the content always have relationships. By having looking at the meta outline, we can better understand this. For example, after you have the case overview and how you break the logic through relationships, through the entity and attributes, we have the meta outline. Meta outline is like the global overview schema of your or tables and or table relationships from this table to this table, probably like over 10 tables, and their descriptions. Descriptions are very important. At meta level, we always give clear description. It's like the data dictionary. You don't want to mess up the definition, let ChatGPT, let cursor misunderstand your point and duplicate your tables, create some tables that you don't need, that messed up the database and your business logic. So table name and description matters. Then we have field. Field just means like in the blog post, what fields we have. Fields means columns in the database. And then we have all this clear listed out, and we have meta reference. More like the from table to table means from this table has some relationship with this table, and from this table we have the series from blog post, we have external links from blog post, we have media assets, and these are just relationship type, but we won't dive into here. After we have these three files, now we have clear structure, what tables listed and what business logic is constructed. Then the next step, because I already have demoed the UI here, I need to understand like what part of logic or what part of business side I want to reflect on the UI. For example, it helped me to understand the key gap and difference, or the tables that in the database just reflect my business logic, and this my UI present. Some of no, some of yes. So I need to make decision like, do I need to reflect tag on the UI because my database already have it and not implemented yet? If I choose yes, then I will make some comment here. So at this step, feel free to decide what part of your UI want to reflect your database. It's very important to understand this part. I will definitely share more specific case how you can use different API calls to reflect and build connection with the front end and back end using Supabase API call in the next video probably. So next step is execution step. At this step, you can call MCP to see, okay, I have the three files, then help me use Supabase MCP to create database for you. Then cursor will call MCP directly, something like this, call this project, execute SQL to help you create database. But also you can see, of course, for demo purpose, beside MCP, or you can just let cursor to give you some SQL queries, ORM language coding to copy paste. For example, I just create a new file named a SQL editor, copy paste, then you back to Supabase. Then you go to SQL editor and you copy paste right here. It's like 300 lines of a query. After you run, you will see the success message here, and you can go to table editor. You will see all the tables are created that exactly matching with our cursor meta outline. So you can see exactly blog post author, blog post, or we can dive into here like visibility setting, media asset, series tags. We have everything here. So that's why it's very important to have these three files as PRD to generate the fourth SQL editor. After you create, if you found out some table are not having proper relationship you intended, or you want to add or remove some new entity, you better go back to 1 to 3 steps to change. You need to write a new query to delete and rerun the new query of your schema building or different tables building. Then for giving more example, I have the dummy data setting here. So I let it create some dummy data. Then you can see in my database, I have all dummy data. And let's back to my UI to see how it look like. So basically, this is my product website. This is the for demo case show. And on the demo part, you see we have all the tags. And tags are related to the post. For example, in the AI marketing tag, we have 3 posts. On the growth tag, we have 3 posts, right? Why it knows these 3 posts is because in the Supabase, we have the blog post and tags. And here's tag ID. You can see this is growth. So for growth is and 99E. Let me figure out 1, 2, 3. There's 3 growth tag. Then back to UI, you have 3 growth post. Right. So that means relationship. Still, same logic you can apply to author. For example, we have some authors have 4 articles. You can find in database in this table blog post author. Then find out this author probably will have 4 times. Let's see who is probably him. Yeah, Alex Chen. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you back to there are 4 posts. Well, the action have 4 articles. And there's another thing I want to mention on here. For example, on recent article, you see the publish. Publish is the status in the database, right? Then when you view all articles, when you view the website as a reader, you only see the published articles. There are only 3 articles. But you back to my database, you will see the blog post. There are like 7 articles, but why only 3 is shown is because it's a published blog post. You see the I here, it means view, because this is because we set the visibility published to the 3 of the 7 blog post. So as you can see there, and on the published blog post, you can see here's the visibility setting ID. This ID ended with 4E. And you can come to here to see this is published 4E. So it means only 3 are tagged as published. Then you can come to here only 3. But sometimes you need to manage a website, right? So I have also a section called admin section. In the admin section, you can directly manage all the articles. You see the 7 articles I show you with different status, draft, archived, only 3 are published. You can use this admin section to manage your database directly instead of like you need to switch the window. So that's why it's important you have your database logic is set up, and then you create your admin logic on the UI to easily manage, view, and what happens with the different relationship of the content. For example, when you have the manage author, you have authors you can delete and edit, and you also have the visibility settings. You can feel free to change, and if you change here, and the logic will appear on the backend, or if you change on the backend, your logic also will reflect on the UI. So it means like two-way sync data flow or two-way sync automation. I will cover this more specific case of how you can build these things in the next video. Yeah, that's pretty much of this video, how you can use Supabase MCP cursor to use the PRD database structure file and to create using SQL editor. And I will share these 2 prompts in the beginning, initialize the database part and create file for you. So any specific questions regarding database parts, comment below, and I will definitely reply. Thank you.